Hi, I wanted to pop in today and talk about my travel organization, planner, and packing process. So I'm actually going to post two videos on this. The first one will be about how I do a travel planner using my beloved Louis Vuitton MM agenda. You guys are familiar with this. I did a video on how I usually use it. It was actually as a wallet. But I just had a big trip and I repurposed this whole planner for the trip and made it a travel planner. So I know you guys love planner stuff. Sorry, my dog is playing on the floor right there. So I know you guys love the planner stuff just as much as I do, and I definitely want to share how I apply it specifically to traveling. So I'm gonna go through this page by page up close, but as always, I like to pop in, say hi in person first. And then I also just kind of wanted to go over my planning process overall, first of all. I'm one of those people that has to be like really, really organized when I travel, or else I'll just stress about it and I won't be able to relax and enjoy the trip. And the whole point of traveling or vacationing is to relax. So I'm like, for me, it's worth it to do all the planning in advance so that once I'm finally on vacation, I can like sit back, relax, and enjoy the trip. So the way I start that process is like as soon as the trip is mentioned or becomes a thing, I create a note on my iPhone. You guys know I do like some digital planning, some paper planning. So for this, I start out digital. I just make a note on my iPhone and it just says like Toronto trip. And I just start brain dumping everything that comes to mind. Like, oh, I need to remember to pack a hostess gift, or I need to remember to pack rain boots, whatever it is. I'll just start brain dumping it there, and then as the trip gets closer, I can kind of like take that information and move it into packing lists, like a schedule itinerary type thing, and more specific planning details which are in here. So that's my first step. And then also like a couple weeks before the trip, I make like a little date with myself, go to the coffee shop, get a little drink, and basically visualize the trip. I don't know if that sounds weird, but I like to just take some time to kind of think it through, like picture, okay, our flight leaves at 1 a.m. So I'm gonna need to get to the airport at 11. Like my husband's gonna need to take his flying medication at midnight. Like in the morning when our flight lands, we're gonna wanna brush our teeth. So I need to have the toothbrush in the carry-on. Like I just kind of visualize it in my head and go step by step through the whole trip that way, making notes to myself as I go. I never know how crazy I sound when I tell you guys these things, but that is what I do. And I've always heard that like Olympic athletes, not to compare myself to that, but that's what they do too. And visualization is just a really powerful technique for being organized, feeling more in control of your life, and then when you're actually in the moment, you're way more prepared. It's like you've already been there, you've already done it in your head, and the odds of things going smoothly are just way higher. So that's my next step. And not only do I think like just practical stuff, like, okay, I need to pack my toothbrush and this and that, but I also like to think just like, how do I want to feel on this trip? What's like the vibe? What's the goal? When am I trying to relax? Am I trying to be adventurous? I just like to kind of have it in my head, because otherwise I've had whole trips and like whole vacations go by, and at the end of it I'm like, whoa, I don't feel relaxed at all. Like I was just going nonstop, and because I didn't sit down and think, you know what, the goal of this trip is to relax and like take a break. So I just kind of like to have a mindset before the trip, knowing how I want it to go, how I want to feel, and I keep that in mind while I'm visualizing. And I think about like little things that could help make that happen. You know, like on this past trip, it was kind of a big trip. We went to St. Louis to visit my husband's family for like 5 days. And then we went to Toronto and spent 2 days exploring Toronto, which was amazing. And then we went to Niagara Falls for one night. Then we went back to Toronto and flew home to LA. So it was like a really complicated trip with a lot of different things. So I was like, for the time at my husband's family's house, you know, I wanted to feel really present, like really soak up the time with family, like really support my husband and enjoying getting to be with his family, which is like such a gift that he still has his mom. And so that was kind of my mindset for that part of the trip. But then once we went to Toronto, it's like, okay, and it was just me and my hubby. It was like romantic time. Getting to explore a new city together is like the most fun date, basically. So it was like a 3-day date in my mind. So I just kind of had this different mindset, and I think planning it out and visualizing it in advance really helped to soak it up more while I was there. So, okay, I have some notes over here. The next step in my schedule is in how I plan, is I literally write out every day of the trip, like Friday, St. Louis, Saturday, fly to Toronto, Sunday, Toronto. And I figure out like, what's our schedule for that day? What's our itinerary? What am I gonna wear? Like I just think out those details and plot them out in here. So I will show you that in a second. The next step is that I make a packing list from that. And I don't so much make a packing list as I make a do not forget list. Because the way I actually pack is like, I go stand in my closet and I look at everything and I'm like, what do I need? Because I live in a studio apartment and that's doable. It's small enough. I can like open every drawer and be like, what do I need in this drawer? Because just visually it reminds you, okay, yeah, I see that and I do need that. But I also make a do not forget list so that once I've gone through and pulled out those things I think I'm gonna need, I can double check my list and make sure I didn't forget anything in that process. And then the last thing I do is like pull all that together, make a travel planner, which is this baby. And I put all my info, my tickets, my confirmation numbers, everything in here because you never know when your phone's gonna die. Like, especially when you're traveling, your phone just like runs out of juice so fast. This trip had an international component and I didn't know how like roaming and data would be on our phone. I just didn't want to rely on like trying to rent a car in Toronto and I'm like searching through my emails for the confirmation number. So while I do a lot of that stuff digitally in normal day-to-day life, I wanted to have everything physical for this trip. So that was another reason that I totally repurposed my whole planner and made it a travel planner. So anyway, that is the rundown. That's kind of like my process. And now I will show you page by page what's in here. Okay, so here is my agenda up close. You guys know from my other video, she has a little bit of damage, but I love her anyway. And this is how I laid it out for the trip. On this side, I just put cards that I thought we would need. I had my ID in here, which I took out earlier. Our 2 debit cards just for emergencies, our mileage credit card because we get rewards with the airline. Health insurance card. I don't know if you're supposed to travel with that, but it just seemed like a good idea. So I brought it just in case. Not that our insurance would have probably covered us in Canada, but my dog is rolling on the carpet. Sorry if you can hear that. And then I had these 2 free passes to the United Club, but we never wound up having a layover long enough to use them. So save those for the next trip. Then I made this dashboard. I cut it down. You guys saw I had the same one in my GM agenda, and I just wanted to have something here. It would have been fun to have a more travel related one or even like specific for this trip, but this was a very last minute planner decision, so that's what I had. Then I had these just like cheap basic Filofax dividers, and I wanted to just have something to split up the sections, so I decided to just use these, and I put little stickets on it rather than actually labeling it. So the first section was just like the overall schedule for the trip. I had these weekly pages. Who are these by? I don't even know who these are by because they came with the agenda when I bought it used. But I just like to have a bird's eye view of like the trip or my week or whatever. So I just wrote out like the basic plan, like literally what city we would be in on what day. And I don't really go in for decorating. I love it, but I just don't really have time. But on this, I did kind of get in the vacation-y spirit. And I just put some stickers in there, nothing fancy. So that was that section, just so, like, so on any given day, I could kind of have a bird's eye view of like where we were in the trip and where we were headed. For the next section, I did a more detailed itinerary. So I had this little today tab that I just ripped out and moved each day of the trip. I'll put a link for this and everything else below. These are Pages Cessa V daily inserts. They're actually the GM size, but I don't have any dailies for this size, so I cut these down. Like I said, it was really last minute. In the future, I'm gonna order more inserts for this size so that I'm prepared. But this actually worked okay. Like I just cut it down. I used washi tape to hide like the part that got cut off. And then on each page I put like what it was or where we'd be, the date, the schedule for the day, my outfit for the day, which I'll get more into that later, and the details for where we'd be when. At the bottom I did the weather and the sunrise and the sunset for the city that we would be in. So that worked really well. I was really happy to have all that information every day. And then on the back of the pages, I just put like any extra information related to that day. So like, you know, like here I had our flight time. I knew I wanted to go by the grocery store when we landed, what we were doing that evening, and then what I would wear, and the weather and the sunset. I also color coded or washi coded it, which again, you know, I don't go for the decoration usually, but like I was feeling festive. So I did this little cloud washi for flying days. I did this flower washi for St. Louis. And then like here I have a checklist on the back. Things I want to do on the airplane, groceries I want to pick up once we arrived. Here's just more of the same or the same. And I just really like checking in with this every single day. It kind of gave me, I don't know, well, obviously we love planning, so there was that, but also just kind of gave me like, it helped me relax on the trip to know this was all done. And I could just open this up every day and just see like, okay, I don't have to think about it. I'm just going to put this outfit on and do what's scheduled. And then obviously I filled it in as we went, like when new plans came up. So it stayed up to date. Let's see what else. More checklists, more travel information. It's all pretty basic now, but then once we got into Canada, like all of a sudden there was like a ton of information. But this was so helpful because my phone died and like I didn't know how the charges for the roaming data were gonna work on my phone. So I was so glad I had like all the confirmation numbers here. I did pink for Toronto, and then I did blue for Niagara Falls. I brought these little canceled stickers in case plans changed, as I knew they would. This was actually the only thing that we like really canceled. Everything else I kind of just wrote it in on the fly. And like I said, it just worked really well. So this was the last day, and that was all the info. So then the next section, I have my packing lists, which I think I already said that these are more like just do not forget lists, like things that as I thought of them, I was like, oh, I really don't want to forget that. I would jot it down. And I'm pretty extensive, so I made a different page for everything. So like here's my carry-on list. I checked it off. Once it was all checked off, I put a check in the corner so I could quickly flip through my list and be like, okay, they all have checks in the corner, like I'm done with everything. And then it was really good to have these too, so that when I was like packing us up to go home, I could double check that I didn't forget anything. So then skipping ahead to the next section was outfits. Like I said, I like to plan my outfits in advance. I was really happy I did this because, you know, we all have that moment where we're just surrounded by clothes on the floor and we're like, what do we wear? We don't know. I never had to have that moment on this trip, and I was really happy about that. And the way I did it was I wrote out all the activities, like figured out, okay, what's the weather? What's the activity? Like, what do I want to be wearing? And then I planned out the outfits. I laid them out and took a picture. You guys, I was really proud of this step. And I printed it out and glued it in there so I could just see at a glance, like, that's what I'm wearing. Because I kind of had to live out of our suitcase on this trip, which if you've seen some of my other travel vlogs, you know I'm like a big nester, and I usually unpack as soon as we get into a hotel, even if it's for like one night. So since I was living out of the suitcase, I knew I'd feel kind of frustrated that I couldn't really see my outfits in front of me. So this was a huge help. Like I just would see on the day, like, let me show you, like, okay, I'm gonna wear my travel outfit. Like I named my outfits. I know that's silly, but it just helped with this. So I'm like, travel outfit, flip to this section. That's my travel outfit, and I can just see it and know, boom, that's what I'm gonna wear. So anyway, that worked really well. I never know how crazy people are gonna think I am when I share this stuff, but I really liked this technique. And I had like both shirt options for the outfit in the picture so I could see everything. Okay, so then the next section were the actual tickets for everything. So I use these top loading envelopes. These are from Filofax. I'll put a link below. You guys saw these are also how I organize my cash usually when I use this as a wallet. So I just use those same envelopes, printed out the tickets for everything and organized it. Like this was all the tickets for St. Louis. Normally I would have thrown these away as I went just to lighten my load because this thing was pretty packed. It could definitely be worse, but like because there's so much paper in it, it was kind of full. But anyway, I left everything in here so I could show you guys when we got back. So those were my St. Louis tickets, Toronto tickets, tickets while we were in Niagara, and then the tickets for the flight home. So again, that just worked really well. Everything was so easy to consult and grab and just like pull it out of here. And then this last section is like my normal. I've started using this agenda for both my wallet and some planning, like see a pretty slim section of actual planning. I'm gonna skip it for now because I'm gonna do a whole new video on my new setup in here. Once I get situated, I'm gonna move all this travel stuff out of here, obviously. So stay tuned for that. I will show you guys my new methods and how I'm using this. But, oh, one other thing I was gonna say, I'm not a scrapbooker. I wish I were, I wish I had time, I wish I made time, but I'm just not. And if I were, this would have been perfect because I also could have stuck, sorry, I don't know why that word was so hard to say. I also could have stuck like mementos in here, like our room keys, our, well, I mean, I guess I did save the tickets. But anyway, this would have been a good way to organize everything, come home and scrapbook it. So if you are better than me and you scrapbook, that's another good thing to keep in mind. Okay, so I'll skip this section for now, but I promise I'm gonna show you guys soon. This was where I kept all the cash for the trip. Again, you guys know I use these for cash normally and we budget in categories, but since this was a trip, obviously it would have been like too hectic to have like restaurants category, travel category, transportation. So it was all just one, like we budgeted a lump sum for the trip and we put it all in here. And then throughout the trip, I kind of like siphoned it out to my hubby and used this as my wallet. I would like to say, oh, look, we came in under budget, $10, but no, we did have to use the card for a few things. So that's just how much cash was left, I guess. I wish I had Canadian cash left. That stuff was so beautiful. Okay, the last thing is this little zippered pouch. I'm pretty sure, yeah, this is from Filofax as well. I had some stamps so I could send postcards. I had receipts. As we were going, I saved receipts and stuck them in there. I actually already cleaned those out except for a couple, but you get the idea. And then I also, the only stickers I brought were these by Faye Creates. They're clear, so you can just kind of stick it over whatever was happening. This one is canceled and the other one is rescheduled. And as you saw, I did use that, so that was kind of handy. And then the last thing was I kept our passports in this back pouch, and that worked really well too. It was pretty full, like I said, but it wasn't too heavy to carry by any means. It fit in my little like day bag, and this baby came all over the country with us and Canada. So it was really, really great. It made me feel so much more organized. And you know, if you have a planner that you just really love, like honestly, why would you not want to bring it on your trip? That's my philosophy. So that's everything. I'm going to now move back into this as my wallet, but I'm also changing the way I do that and using this planner for more planning stuff, kind of downsizing from my GM, the larger agenda, into this one. So I have another planner video coming up in the next few weeks. Once I get that kind of ironed out, I will show you guys how I move into doing this on an everyday basis. And then also next week I'm gonna have like part 2 of this whole travel series, which will be my packing video. So I'll show you how I actually pack, like how I take all the planning in here and make it happen as far as packing, my skincare, my beauty, my clothes, everything, and how I fit it all into 2 suitcases for this giant trip. So stay tuned for that. Thanks so much for watching. If you're new here, please take a minute to subscribe. I try to post every week. I'm super open to suggestions. I love getting to know you guys. So let me know what you think about this, and I'll see you soon. Bye.